Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first ever episode of HomestarRErunner. If you can think of a better name, please let me know. I am the guy who wins all the competitions. That's me, Evan Elliott.
Um, I'm David, and a Homestar related joke here.
Yeah, I figured I'm gonna try to open these episodes up with as many just genuinely awful references as I can cram together.
That's mostly what Homestar Runner is just every possible reference crammed into about 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've noticed that like a lot of obviously this is going to be almost immediately off topic, but a lot of the later cartoons I find are so lost in references to themselves and like older jokes that it's
Yeah, well,
genuinely it gets.
that's why such thing as the Homestar Runner wiki exists, which I'm sure we'll get great use of in the production of this show.
Absolutely. Oh God, the yeah, because I've been watching some of the later Strong Bad emails, and I find it almost impossible to actually find one I can recommend to somebody if I want them to get into it, because you've got to explain who this weird joke is or who a Steve is or whatever else, and you have to watch 100 different episodes to actually establish who the characters are. And I'm gonna get into the topic at hand for this particular episode. That is because this is the first episode. I feel like it makes the most sense to do the first time here episode and the various character introductions. So the first time here episode, I don't know if that's anyone's first introduction to Homestar. I didn't. I don't think I even
I think the first time I loaded up the site, I played the actual intro theme song the first time. I saw Homestar Runner and I was like, oh my god, it's a sock puppet. What is happening? I have no idea what's going on. And then the home menu loaded and I just kind of clicked around and I totally missed the fact that there was a big old button on the right side that said first time here. And it was probably a good month or so later that I found it.
It was a solid length of time for me as well, because I think the first cartoon that I saw from them was Most in the Graveyard, like the one with the snarling undead hungry sheep hill. I think it was the first one that I saw.
Oh, was that a Strong Bad email?
No, that was a Halloween special, I think, because it's got the goblin in it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first time here. I don't think it might have been quite a while until I actually saw the first time here tune, which
it is a very good introduction to Homestar and Strong Bad as characters.
That's true. It definitely does what it sets out to do, which is kind of surprising. Like for anyone who hasn't seen it, I don't know if anybody who's going to be hearing this, at least in the early stages, won't have seen any Homestar. But essentially the conceit is that he's giving an introduction to the website, but he can't seem to get the wording right. And I think they go like the number of takes ends up being like one below the record for most takes. I remember reading that on
really?
On the Homestar Wiki, like they deliberately made it so it was one below the record of most takes for a single any sort of filming.
And the director, of course, is the illustrious Cherry Gregg.
Yeah, Cherry Gregg.
I think appears in other cartoons on HomestarRunner.com, but I don't remember any.
I know his name shows up more than once. I just don't know if I don't know a lot about actually what he like. I don't think he shows up in person or anything like that. I think he's just a producer. He's kind of like the Chimendez. He just kind of shows up in various things when they need a name for a producer or something like that.
Right, or Lem Sports Interviews.
Lem Sports Interviews. I think that's my favorite of the weird names.
I gotta say my favorite one is Teague Dougland.
Teague Dougland. He's the manager for
Limousine.
Teague Dougland. I remember actually when I saw the first time here tune for the first time, I was I think in grade 8 or something like that. And when I was watching it, it randomizes. Well, for one of the takes, he's either like in a clown costume or whatever, and it kind of randomizes depending on when you watch it. On Asha, they had him blurred out and he was naked, and I was like, and I didn't watch it for like 2 more weeks because I was certain that like this was an older kid's website or something like that, because he was like blurred out naked, and I was like, I can't watch this anymore.
I'm in 8th grade, and what is this? I just watched the video like 20 minutes ago, and I think the random one that showed up was just Homestar in a sailor suit.
Honestly, I think that's more uncomfortable than Homestar than Homestar naked.
Yeah, Like you need arms to sail Homestar. It's kind of one of the main things you need.
Yeah, I find like the weird thing about it is those like I was watching through the character introductions and getting to hear the lovely, somewhat sexist Marzipan introduction again, and I'm sure this is something that'll come up because this is well, just I guess just because of the sort of the nature of this thing. But a lot of the characters, in particular, Strong Bad, Bubs, and Marzipan, have some kind of problematic nature to them, especially Bubs's voice.
Oh sure, yeah. Like Strong Bad used to have like an incredibly like over affected Mexican or Hispanic accent, and Marzipan is every like stereotype of like feminism all in one right from the get go.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that because like I find most of the Homestar fans that I've met, well, now are all like pretty left-wing people, yet the cartoon seems to almost prime you for that like Reddit anti-feminism kind of thing, given the way a
Yeah,
lot of
I
the
feel like
characters
it
behave.
never really progressed to that point. I think they just kind of, poked fun here and there and just kind of reveled in it being kind of a random thing to joke about.
Yeah, that's true. Like they didn't Homestar Runner never really had like politics. Like I don't think like there was never because it's almost a child. I don't know. Is it a children's cartoon? That's something I was really never able to discern if that's what they wanted.
I feel like it's a children's cartoon in the same way that like Animaniacs is a children's cartoon. Like there's so many references in it that you do not understand as a child watching it. To be fair, I watched it the first time when I was, I want to say 13. Um, but yeah, there was still definitely a lot of things in it that I did not understand at the time, but really just kind of the slapstick nature of it makes it, entertaining for kids as well, I feel like.
No, absolutely. Like I still remember though, actually, I used to get in trouble for watching it because my mom's kind of strict about stuff like that. And back when I was like I can't even remember, I would have been in like grade 5 or 6 when I started watching this stuff. The fact that she said crap was like scandalous for me at the time.
Holy
Like
crap. Like, oh god, my baby ears.
yeah, it was like that, and not to get again too much into the other cartoons that we're going to be covering, like in later stuff, but the one I don't remember what it's called, but it's a Cheat Commandos episode where the intern guy says, "Well, I'm going to go home and get teen pregnant," and for whatever,
I forgot about that. Oh
and
god.
and that line like, again, that line was another one where I felt like really weirdly uncomfortable about hearing that when I was younger, because
Yeah, and
yeah.
then, as you have grown up, you realize that it's more like this is a reference to every after school special that was on when the Brothers Chaps were kids.
Yeah, that's what I like about like this Homestar Runner in general is that it feels very much just like it feels like it's permanently been just two '80s guys trying to make each other laugh, like the whole aesthetic to it.
Yeah. And it really kind of evolved into that, the whole thing from the get-go, back when the site launched was Homestar is a good athlete and he always wins competitions. Um and there was really not too much that was referential about it, I feel like. Like I've watched some of the really early stuff and that is really more like a children's cartoon, I feel like.
I like the strongest man in the world contest, like the original video, not the weird the one where Strong Bad reads it, which is a lot more referential. But especially the first couple, the strongest man in the world competition and all that stuff is very like because it was a children's book when it began, if I'm not mistaken. Like that was
Yeah, I
the
think
show's
they
genesis.
wrote this. They made this thing in Photoshop. They printed it out at Kinko's and gave it to a few of their friends. And then just later on, they were like, "Hey, we got these characters. We could do a cartoon of this."
Yeah, because I remember like the whole thing was kind of supposed to be like an experiment. Matt wanted to learn how to use Flash better, and they figured, well, we've got all these characters lying around, we'll just use them.
Yeah, and then of course you get the actual personality of all the characters in the character videos.
Yeah, it was funny watching the character videos after having watched this show for Jesus almost 10 years now. For you, I imagine it's even longer. But having watched this for such a long time, it's very weird to see the way they. Because when did the character? Do you know when the character videos came out?
So they've got this. They've got the newer designs for the characters. Like they've got the cell shading. Homestar doesn't have like the weird like globe shaped head anymore. So I'd say probably around 2002 or 2003. You know,
Oh yeah,
they've
yeah,
kind of
because
finalized the character designs at that point.
yeah, because it's just the character personalities though are so they're very different. I find from the way they end up in the characters' videos.
Oh yeah, for
Like
sure. Like
like in particular, like Strong Sad in particular, he's still got the old voice at that point. I think he's one of the older voices that he had.
yeah, when he had kind of the more sing-song, oh, I'm strong, sad, but I love the Cure. He kind of just turned into more of like a sarcastic Michael Cera type character after a while, I feel like.
Yeah, the that Strong Said does have my favorite line out of any of the character videos, which is where he says, "Oh shit, how does it go again?" I literally just watched it and I'm blanking on it now, but he goes something along the lines of, I guess I like board games more than most people," which is to say that I like board games more than most people do, but also that I like board games more than I like most people. Like,
You know, I do relate to that. I just got married a couple months ago, and the majority of our wedding gifts were board games.
I've noticed that too. Like that's a kind of the character. I guess the character to a lot of the people who I've met who have been into. Because I'm sort of the same way. Most of the people who've watched it are the kind of people who would be very into board games because they're selling. I mean, they're selling a board game now that the Trogdor the board game, which I'm sure we'll get around to talking about a little bit more in the future of this.
Yeah, I think it's past $1 million at this point, and they were aiming for 75 grand.
Seriously, a million? Holy shit! I mean, I'm not. I guess I'm not surprised because there's
Yeah.
this shows. I mean, it was a meme once upon a time, and nostalgia value alone would probably drive that.
Yeah, and there's tons of Dungeons and Dragons references in Homestar Runner as well, which I suppose is another thing that was popular starting in the 80s, so that kind of explains that.
I'm trying. I don't. I know there's that. I know like in the like the character videos, for example, like the one of the things that I noticed also is they've kind of got a different character for like Coach Z a lot as well. I find they've because Coach Z kind of got a very uncomfortable sexual predator vibe to him later on in the show. And like
Yeah, that I definitely can feel that later on. Like he starts just kind of as the weird, dad character who, has this weird accent and hangs out in the locker room and gives kids advice, but then, there's all the stuff about, slapping rear ends and like his weird obsession with ointments and
really.
and then he starts a rap career. So there's that. I guess you can't really call it a career, but he does rap.
But I just like that they like because in his character video he starts to do these people try to fade me, which I don't know. Does he ever actually finish these people try to fade me, or is that like because I think that was a Powered by the Cheat video or something?
I don't recall if there was a video for that song. I know that they did record a full version of that song for the CD.
Oh yeah, Strong Bad Sings or
yeah, Strong Bad Sings and Other Type Hits.
it's a
and
good.
then I think the Coach Z song that that got the video was "Give Me a Chance to Do a Hip Hop Dance."
Oh yeah, like I
That,
remember.
that was tacked on to the end of the New Boots video.
Oh, is New Boots is like it's just a Powered by the Cheat short, right?
Yeah, and I think we'll get into Powered by the Cheat stuff more in depth in another episode. But yeah, there's a whole nother world of Coach Z that is not explored in the character video.
Yeah, I'd like at some point to do an episode that's just about the Coach Z rap songs, or maybe just the songs in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs, like more than were on the CD, more than you can download on the downloads page, and you just kind of have to dig for them. Some of them are only 10 seconds, but they're almost all of them, I feel like, pretty genius.
Absolutely. Like another thing in like I've noticed like the for the I guess because we're talking about the intro video and like that sort of stuff you can talk about the cartoons it links off to. I only remember it links off what to the Homestar Talker, to a Job Well Done, and I don't remember what the third thing is.
It was a link to just the page for Strong Bad emails.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because the like a Job Well Done in particular, I feel like we can talk about that because it's not really going to be included on any other episode like lists or
Sure.
anything like that. A Job Well Done was I don't know like how was a Job Well Done was before they'd finalized the characters, right? Like that would have been 2001 or something like that.
Yeah, I think I haven't watched that one recently, but I feel like I remember it being pretty close to final character designs, at least. Maybe not like character development for sure, but th- there's the whole it does still very much have the strong, sad, sing-songy voice. You listen to it while you slumber. He gives Coach Z the tape of him reading Job over and over again.
So I've always enjoyed the Job Well Done, or Job Well Done rather, because there's that one scene where they've got Coach Z strapped down in the movie theater, Clockwork Orange style, and they've got him watching the businessman's job is giving the business, and then
Which
the
is
poop,
true. It's definitely true.
and then the poop smith's job is obvious.
Then the punchline of the whole video is that he learns how to say job but gets worse at saying Homestar.
He calls him hamstring at one point, which is one of the many Homestar echolalia moments that I've had, is just him saying hamstring.
Ramrod? Uncle?
Ramrod. I really like that tune.
I'm Whamwad 10.
Whamwad. I
Putting more R's in Homestar's name, I think, is a good idea.
RunnerRunner. How many R's can you fit in Homestar's name?
War one whoa. That'd make the intro video a little bit more interesting.
Getting back to the intro video, a good segue there. I remember like that was another one where I think that was probably the bane of any of my elementary school friends' existence would have been that video. Because I think the number of times I would have said like the USS HomestarRErunner.com or the next, or I purposefully like I memorized that entire video back in elementary school, even the Spanish bit that he does, just like to harass my friends.
Oh, hello, I am Homestar, and this is a website.
Or my favorite still when he goes like, it's homestarrunner.net, and then you hear the guy was, it's .com. It's .com. And a little tagline comes up.
Yeah, that was I feel like that was an in-joke with my friend group for a little bit, at least. Just like so many other, one-off jokes from this website.
Yeah, that's one thing that I feel like is going to come up a lot, is the sort of the way in which like its humor is kind of really disseminated throughout the internet. I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves for kind of helping to invent a very sort of specific style of being funny online.
Yeah. And it was never the kind of, harmful being funny online that was really popular, in kind of Homestar's contemporaries. Like, I guess Newgrounds had a lot of stuff on it that was, I guess, kind of mean-spirited, I'd say, as far as Flash animation goes. And that got tons and tons of views because I feel like people just really wanted to see how edgy they could be.
Yeah, I always remember like all of those games that were just involved you being George Bush and like murdering Osama bin Laden or something like that. Like,
yeah, like the Simpsons made a joke about.
Oh yeah, the bin Laden in a blender.
Yep.
It delivers on what it promises.
Yep.
But I find like there's even a sort of like a trace of the sort of way they approach jokes, even in like the McElroy brother podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of McElroy humor evolved out of kind of this early 2000s internet culture that they all grew up in.
Like there's in particular, like in a lot of the like the open, like there's a lot of usage of sort of like just playing with words, like saying things in a sort of a weird way. Like I'm trying to think of an example from the particularly episodes that we're talking about, but like there's one where he calls Strong Sad Zachary Taylor. And like or oh yeah,
the example that I can think of from the character videos, like in the Homestar one, it's another one of those, it chooses a random option every time you load the page, and it's Homestar choosing a word to describe himself, and the one that I just got was Strong Bad chiming in from the side of the screen going, "Don't forget Lionel Richie."
Yeah, like it feels like almost like, I guess, a good version of the sort of lol random humor that would have been popular around the same time as well, like that done properly.
Yeah, Teen Girl Squad, I feel like, is definitely that. The hyper violent cartoons just taken down to a more extremely silly level.
I like that's I remember there's an article in the Rolling Stone a couple of years ago, back when they had just started rebooting the website again after like the hiatus. And they had a thing where they talked about a lot of creators. I think is it Pendleton Ward from Adventure Time, I think is his name. He for example, like talked about how it really inspired his stuff. And I mean, they were on Gravity Falls. Like I feel like there's a lot of.
Yeah, Matt Chapman was the voice of Mermando.
I think he did. Oh no, never mind. Different. I was going to say. I thought he was the time traveler guy. But that's Justin Roiland, actually.
Yeah, that definitely was Justin Roiland. Oh
yeah,
wow!
I feel like you can see a lot of like where Matt's sensibilities got into Gravity Falls as well. Like there's a lot of jokes that I feel like either Matt wrote or somebody who'd grown up watching HomestarRErunner cartoons and was in the writer's room had come up with.
Yes, absolutely. Like the one that I can immediately think of is Grunkle Stan subscribing to Gold Chains for Old Men magazine.
I think, yeah, that one, basically anything they watch on TV feels like it could have been out of a Homestar video, like the baby fights.
Yes. Ducktective.
Like all those sort of jokes, like just in the sort of like the very surreal, but like I guess benignly surreal, like to contrast it against a lot of like the Eric Andre stuff, which is a lot more like aggressive with its weirdness. That it always kind of treats it as normal.
Yeah, it's surreal and nobody cares.
Yeah, like all of the characters, like except sometimes Strong Bad, almost none of the characters ever sort of comment on how weird the stuff is, whereas a lot of other sort of surreal humor stuff tries to draw your attention to it.
Right, yeah. Like why does Bubs have a concession stand that's just out in a field with nothing else around?
Yeah, I do like when like that one in I think it's Donut Onto Others, where he goes, "You set up a rival concession stand, not he goes, just across the road from me, across the way," or something like that, because he looks down, there's no road there. Just across
the way from me.
Yeah, because I mean, I'd also find like, I don't know, Bubs is still a character that's very weird for me because he's very coded black throughout the entire episode. I mean, especially like in his character video, I find they try to he's a kind of a black exploitation stereotype without actually making, well, he's blue, but they have a lot of that sort of characteristics to him.
Yeah, like how he's like there used to be on the games page this game called Dancing Bubs.
That's specifically what I was thinking of when he, in the characters video, he also goes, "Oh, I can dance," and he does the whole thing, and that whole kind of thing feels, again, not malicious or anything. I don't want to act like I'm going, "Oh, your fave is problematic, HomestarRErunner," or anything like that.
Sure.
But it does feel like there are some, it's mostly benign, I guess, but there's a lot of stuff that's definitely from a different time now.
It comes from, the creators coming from a certain point of view, and maybe they just, weren't thinking of these things at the time.
Exactly. Like I've also feel like in a lot of like early internet sort of videos and culture and whatnot, there was that sort of, you can say anything you want. It's the wild, wild west kind of approach to things, and not just with stuff like that, but just we were talking about the Newgrounds videos earlier. I find there was that whole sort of thing is because you could now do anything and there were no censors. A lot of people took full advantage of that to just post literally anything.
Oh yeah, Newgrounds had all sorts of stuff that you wouldn't want to see.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's been obviously good and bad because that same sort of lack of oversight is the same sort of thing that allows something as genuinely odd as Homestar was to survive and thrive without having to worry about people trying to rein it in.
Yeah, I did really find it refreshing back then that there was this site which only had this one series on it. Because like the other sites I was going to at the time were like Weeble's stuff, which had the Weeble and Bob cartoons, but also like these musical shorts, and also they hosted videos by other people. Like they hosted Salad Fingers by David Firth. They hosted the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny by Alt F4 and Lemon Demon, which by the way is where I first saw that video, but that's neither here nor there. And rathergood.com, which is where the sponge monkeys or spong monkeys from that old Quiznos ad came from.
I gonna say I have no idea what that is.
Oh yeah, it was this ad campaign in, I feel like maybe 2003 or so, for Quiznos subs. And they hired this British animator, Joel Veitch or Veitch, and his whole thing were these crudely made flash animations that were often musical, which had animals in them, usually with some kind of really like distorted features. They were just pictures of animals that were kind of bouncing back and forth, singing songs or dancing or something like that. And they would often have like human eyes or mouths superimposed over them, so they were just like really like creepy looking. And yeah, Quiznos was like, yes, that is what we want to advertise our subs. So yeah, that's what happens back in those days.
It's great because like having seen all those flash animations, I've never seen that before, but I feel like I have a near perfect image in my brain just from knowing the sort of aesthetics of stuff back then.
Yes, absolutely.
Because like that's another thing. I feel like a lot of Homestar cartoons looked very polished too for the time. They looked almost professional compared
Yeah,
to
like they didn't just open up Flash and use like the pencil tool and make some stick figure characters and call that a cartoon. They actually honed the cells, like an actual cartoon would.
yeah, like it's like right now I know it's from a newer video, but they haven't really changed the characters much since then. I'm looking at the sort of the thumbnail image for the Trogdor the board game commercial, and it looks leaps and bounds over just about anything else. Even like the video for Ultimate Showdown, it just looks a lot better than anything else that was around it.
Yeah, definitely. And like Flash was such like this cool thing. Like I was kind of introduced to it as like, this is the thing that's going to replace Macromedia Shockwave, which was the thing that basically every popular site had at least one game written in Shockwave on it, just to kind of keep visitors around and for a while and give them something to do.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit before my time. I think like though I do remember like the Shockwave player and stuff like that. I'm struggling. Or was that would that have been used on like Newgrounds and Congregate back then?
I think that Congregate came around after the advent of Flash. Um, Shockwave was more used for like the example that I always come back to is on angelfire.com, which was kind of a GeoCities type place where you could make your own, this is my web page and here's all this cool stuff that I like. On their homepage, they had they had a snowboarding game, and I think it was just called Snowboarding Game.
I think
um,
I've played that actually. Now that you mention it,
and yeah, you just use your keyboard to move back and forth and um avoid obstacles, or jump over moguls and do tricks. And every time you jumped in the air, you'd hear a little sample of a voice going yippee.
Yeah, I've definitely played that before. I
Yeah.
think the only
So
like
so Flash felt like it was, a progression of that to like even more, cool, complex things that we can now see in our web browsers.
it's just weird to me because now Flash is kind of dying off as the sort of like, well, I mean, it's been dead in terms of usage for a while now. Homestar really being the last kind of holdout. And I'm just wondering, how do you think, I guess, look into the future, how do you think that they're gonna keep making tunes in if once Flash becomes like completely obsolete?
Yeah, I've thought about this for a little bit, and I feel like maybe they'll keep using Flash, but like Flash will stop being a thing that's supported in like playing the Flash files directly in your browser will stop being a thing that you're allowed to do, just because there's so many flaws with it now that are especially security wise. But just as something to like animate with, and then maybe capture it and put it on YouTube. I guess kind of like Adobe Audition, or whatever Adobe product is used for animating. I'm not an animator by any stretch.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing so far to try and archive the old tunes. I hope they. I think eventually they'll probably just have the whole site on YouTube, which will be a weird transition from having like the actual place that you visit kind of
Yeah,
go
and
away.
and I think actually the vast majority of the cartoons have been uploaded by at least somebody to YouTube at this point. Like they may be bad, uh unregistered Hypercam 2 capture of the Flash site. But they're at least, a simulacrum is there.
Speaking of the YouTube things, this is probably my favorite like Homestar adjacent thing. Is that there's a guy on every single, almost every single Homestar Runner video upload, either by the actual Brothers Chaps YouTube channel or by just anybody, who will claim that the Brothers Chaps are like horrible racists, or sometimes even like weirder and more like absurd claims that I don't remember, and I think they'd probably be
Oh my
unpleasant
god.
anyways. And that he also claims that he invented the entire show, and he shows up like on all of their videos and starts like massive fights. I only remember this because it was like 3 a.m. and I decided I'll read the comments on Homestar Runner videos. And it's
Wow, I had not seen any of that, and I'm sure that it is not the guy who originally wrote the book with them, Craig Zobel.
oh no, it's not him. I've gone to the guy's YouTube channel, and all he has is really weird psychedelic music that he seems to have made himself, and that's about it. I don't even remember his name. I probably before the next episode I'll find his name and talk a little bit about more about that. But just his existence has always been extremely funny to me because he'll go on these long unhinged rants about the Brothers Chaps and about how he was the real creator of it, and it's just a very it was a very strange thing to run into because apparently he's like well known in the community, and he's like was involved in HR Wiki for a while and stuff.
Jeez. Yeah, I feel like I got out of the Homestar community like right before YouTube was launched almost. Yeah, like my years of watching Homestar religiously probably went up to about 2007. And then I came back to it every once in a while hoping there would be something new, and occasionally there was, but that was really during the dark times of nothing really happening there on homestarrunner.com.
When did the site first kind of go silent? Do you remember?
I want to say around 2007 or 8. It was right about the time that I started college. Like it was still super active when I was in high school. Like there were like I went to a Catholic school, so we we wore uniforms for most days, but we'd occasionally get non-uniform days, and at least a few people would be wearing HomestarRErunner or Strong Bad shirts or hoodies on those days. You know, it was still a really big thing back then. But then, yeah, I feel like as soon as I went to college, it kind of started dying out. Like the thing that I remember like being a surprise that something got posted was the seriously forks spelled with X's.
That was, yeah, because that was like they posted that and then went dead again for like 2 years.
Yeah, I think that was an April Fool's thing.
Yeah, it was. I actually remember kind of still enjoying that one as well, though the Xerxley forks or whatever it was supposed like. I think it was supposed to be a parody of that. That there was that Bugs Bunny and Tweety show like remake where they were all superheroes or something like that.
Oh yeah, like the cyberpunk Bugs Bunny show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't proudly say that I have seen every single episode of that awful, awful show.
man, I need to talk about that with you like off the air because I've only seen stills of it, but I feel like that's something I should at least see a little bit of.
You did, yeah. Off. I mean, obviously, I'll talk to you more about this off the air, but yeah, it's bad. It's bad in a way though that's kind of weirdly entertaining. Like it's not funny bad, but it's also not. I guess it's also not like, I don't know. It's enjoyable in a very sort of weird, campy way that could have existed in that period of time when they'd make shows like that.
Yeah, that was at least the Xerxley forks was another really good example of just how good the Brothers Chaps were at making like joke designs for all of the characters. Just, you know, sometimes as a one-off, but sometimes they just became their entire an entire other series, you know, like the old-timey cartoons or, you know, the Stinko Man universe.
I cannot wait to talk about Stinko Man. That's one of my favorite bits from the show.
It's really good.
Yeah, I've tried to use that. That one's I've tried to use to get my like weeb friends to watch it by sending them Japanese cartoon. But I don't know. I feel like another thing, and this has been offhandedly mentioned in the Henry Kissinger Pokemon Going to Die Discord, I think by either Matt or Brooks or someone, they mentioned at one point that it's very hard for people who didn't kind of experience it at a certain age to get into it now just because of the way that it is.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like, I feel like it's really one of those things where if you're at the age where you're looking for something that's just a little offbeat, you know, just slightly outside of like your normal, you know, kids WB cartoons or, you know, whatever they show on Fox. Yeah, it's that, you know, I'm a teen now and I want to see something new and different that maybe not a lot of people know about.
That's true. It definitely had a very cult sort of appeal to it because for whatever reason, when I was in elementary school and in high school, not a lot of people had really seen like HomestarRunner. It wasn't until like the last couple of years that I've met people who have actually watched it outside of like two of my friends, one who introduced it to me and one who I introduced it to, which is weird because from what I've heard, especially from you, it seems like a lot of people you knew were into it or had watched it.
Yeah, definitely. The first person to tell me about it was a classmate of mine from middle school who sent me a message over AOL Instant Messenger about it over the summer break between 8th grade and high school.
I just realized right now I'm probably going to have to change the name of this podcast because I totally forgot. Apparently, HomestarRErunner is a fan blog from like the 2000s.
Oh my god!
I was
not in the blogosphere at all in that time.
The only reason I just found out because I was scrolling through. I was trying to find that guy who I was talking about earlier who comments all that stuff. His YouTube channel's been deleted now from apparently for violating their terms and services, which is probably because he had a really anti-Semitic video on there at one point. But
well, you know what our good friend Strong Bad would say happened to that channel.
You'd say it got removed.
It got removed.
Yeah, but yeah, he claimed, like, apparently he claimed that he went on a really long ramble saying that they were racist child molesters, and then it was entitled "HomestarRErunner Creator Exposed."
Yeah, that's not a thing you should do.
Nope.
I think I can understand why he's not around anymore.
Nope, it was just very, I remember just being a very surreal thing to discover because he thought that like the brothers chaps were out to get him and he claimed he was in the middle of a lawsuit and that's why the website wasn't updating. Like
Wow.
it was a very sort of surreal thing to experience because I found out about it like last year in the middle of the night. And it
Yeah,
was just
Monday through Wednesday were for writing Gravity Falls and Yo Gabba Gabba, and then Thursday and Friday were lawsuit day.
and they'd go to court to argue with this clearly disturbed man about how he created Strong Bad.
Yes. One thing I wanted to ask you if you'd experienced maybe like after the fact, because it was kind of like a right as they were starting to get popular thing. The channel G4 had this show called Pulse. It was a digital cable channel that I think was originally about video games only, and then spun off to be just kind of everything all at once for internet culture. But yeah, they had this show called Pulse, and they did an interview with the brothers Chaps and Melissa Palmer. And I want to say it was like 2003 or 2004 that they did that, because they have a clip of them sitting on a couch with GameCube Wavebird controllers talking about Animal Crossing.
I've seen that video, but like obviously, like I would have been like 5 when that came out.
Yeah.
But I've seen the video a couple of years ago. Because somebody ripped it all and uploaded it onto YouTube, and I think I saw it there. I don't really remember a lot about it. That's something I'd have to rewatch.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting look at, this is kind of what HomestarRErunner the day to day looked like right before it started being their full-time job. Like it's them, working out of their apartment, with a basketball hoop in the back and challenging the G4 guy to see if they can get more hoops than he can.
Oh yeah,
it's
I
an
remember.
interesting watch.
I remember thinking like it's pretty much exactly what I expected the brothers Chaps to be like in real life.
Yeah.
Like they just seemed like two just kind of goofy, permanently adolescent guys.
Yeah. Just talking about video games and hair metal all the time.
Yeah, you can definitely see how like the way they were kind of bled into even like the early parts of it. Like I've always been not concerned, but always kind of wondering if they thought that Strong Bad was like genuinely cool when they started. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like he always seemed to me, even like in the stuff that was like, a jumping jack contest, for example, which is one of the cartoons that got taken off the site because it was so bad. That he was meant to be like the bumbling villain who was always trying to win but never could, just because he was too full of himself and stupid.
That's true. It's just because they kind of fill him up with a lot of traits that I imagine someone like them also kind of would have admired. Like in particular, his like adoration of hair metal and all that sort of stuff. Like stuff that I imagine the brothers Chaps probably share in terms of traits with him.
Yeah, and his utter obsession with, old video games, like the email where he talks about all of the different types of video games that there are.
Yeah, because it feels like it
be in.
Oh yeah, that feels like just something that the brothers Chaps are just saying at you at that point. But yeah, like
we're the brothers Chaps, and we want to be a floating head in a vector game that shoots blocks at you.
What I do like is that I think almost every game that they mention in that email actually ends up becoming a real game on the games page later, or at least the
Yeah.
The vector game does.
Now that I think about it, I think you're right. I think even Secret Collect, which was like the Atari 2600 game, um, they turned it into a game that you could play at least a couple of levels of. Um, and then they referenced that character of Secret Collect, who is just a square on the screen later, as like one of those like Pac-Man Saturday morning cartoon spin-offs
Come on,
where
Secret
he's
Collect. We gotta get
yeah,
into
yeah,
the
yeah.
Dragon's
It's
Castle. Oh, I don't know about that. Collect, collect, collect.
yes. It's just one of those things where it got so ridiculously out of hand.
Yeah, like that's what I was like talking about. Like a lot of the show towards right before the break or the pause or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but right before it went silent for quite a while. I think like that was one of the only issues I could say is it got really hard to get into if you hadn't always been into it.
Yeah, there's nothing about the site which really communicates to you from like your first visit that you should go back and like maybe watch some of these things chronologically from when they came out so you can, you know.
Yeah, because there's no plot, but you still kind of have to see. Like, I've always wanted to create a master list of episodes you have to have watched in order to get like later like references, like the Sweet Cup and Cakes episode and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because like unless you have like, because when I started, the show had been going for quite some time, and I just had the no friends level of free time that I could just sit there and tenaciously watch every single episode over and over and over again until I knew them like the back of my hand.
Yeah, that was me too. Like I just because there were so many of them, like there was still under 100 at the time when I started watching, but there were so many strong bad emails that I felt like, well, I can't start here. There's just too much. I have to watch the long form tunes first so that I can understand this.
It was one of those things where like just I remember sitting there one day with a friend of mine and we just sat on the computer for something like 6 or 8 hours and we just watched every single one up until the 200 email special. I think was what was the latest one at the time.
Oh wow.
Just watched all the original 200.
That's a day right there.
Oh yeah, it was. I remember always feeling vaguely bad every time that was one of like the hangouts with my friends was just we're gonna watch just a ton of internet cartoons.
Yeah, I think that was about the point in my childhood when when I started like being more of a like instant message my friends more than like actually go to their houses type of situation.
Yeah, I would have been in the same spot, but like I said, my parents were always really weird about online, which is probably why I got into this show and all that other sort of stuff so late. So I wasn't really able to do those sorts of things. Like I wasn't allowed to browse the internet by myself until 13.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense then.
Yeah, which is like I was extremely offline until high school, and at which point I just, made up for lost time by injecting online directly into my veins.
um I suppose like by the time you were in high school, most people had smartphones already.
Oh yeah,
So
like the
that would
very
have been
like I think most people like in yeah, let's see, high school, yeah, most people would have had like very the first or second iPhone. No, it would have been almost iPhone 3 or 4 by that point. Yeah.
yeah. I think the only way that I could watch internet videos when I was in high school was to go use the candy colored iMacs in the computer lab. Um,
I feel like that's definitely one of sort of the interesting sort of dynamics of like is the sort of the difference between how like I for me it was like I would just go down into my basement and just watch them on like the desktop for hours. Like you would have genuinely in some cases had to have employ a level of ingenuity in order to find a place where you could watch internet videos.
yeah, and now you just, whip out your headphones on the bus and like I'm gonna gonna watch Let's Plays to forget the fact that I have to commute 90 minutes each way.
That's what I mean. Like in getting ready for this episode, I just like about a half hour before we started recording, I just sat down with a playlist of the character videos on YouTube and just watched grainy Hypercam 2 rips of all the character videos on YouTube again.
I figured out. I actually figured out how to make Chrome still let you play the actual Flash site, but it required a little bit of Googling to figure that out.
Oh yeah, it's such a nightmare trying to like. I haven't been on the actual site in quite a long time. Like I've only been using YouTube to watch the videos because it's just been easier that way. Even though I do have like a genuine sort of nostalgia for using the actual Flash site.
Yeah, like it's. I remember. I feel like maybe I had high-speed internet like right around the time when I started watching it, but then I got my own desktop computer up in my room, and the cable the cable wouldn't reach up there, so I was still using a modem up there to use dial-up, and yeah, that required a little bit of dedication to watch HomestarRErunner over dial-up because like the longer cartoons would probably take a good 6 or 7 minutes to load.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think you mentioned we were talking about beforehand that you had like some stories of the various places and things you had to do in order to watch the most recent upload.
Yes. Should I get into a couple of those?
Yeah, I think that's like probably going to be winding down, but yeah, just like maybe like I'm just interested to hear one or two of those. Probably be good content for the end here.
Okay. So yeah, the freshman, the summer after freshman year of high school, like I said, I went to a Catholic school, and in Minnesota, I think they might still have it. There's this summer, like there's this week-long summer camp that like Christian teens go to, called Summer Festival, and you stay at like a college campus and you sleep in the dorms, and then you go out and do fun faith activities all day in you know.
Oh yeah, I went to plenty of Christian camps too. I get the feeling.
Yeah, and I just happened to find that the student union building where we had our nightly Christian rock concerts was also internet connected. So I logged on, I think there, and I think that was when the Vamlum Times Teen Girl Squad came out. I watched that on that computer on the CRT monitor. I think running Windows XP. And the other time that I could immediately think of was a family trip that I took to Mexico. I think in 2003 or 4, and we went to this internet cafe in Acapulco, and the newest thing that day was the New Boots cartoon. So I watched that in a Mexican internet cafe, and then I left, and a dog followed me back to my hotel room.
Oh,
I think a stray dog.
What I like, the one-legged stray dog. there's my obligatory Homestar reference for this episode. Is
yeah, stray little brother.
Little bro, I can make it on my own.
That little guy.
He's got a heart of a champion.
Oh, tenderfoot.
Is that how you see me, Strongbad? As a two-legged elephant?
All right. We've gone off the rails just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good for the first episode here of, I guess, Homestar podcast name pending. So I hope you all enjoy this, and hopefully, get into more of a swing of things as the show goes on. But I think that went pretty well.
Yeah, no probalo.
No probalo whatsoever. We'll think of a way to end this podcast better in the future. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night.